And to my left, we have our first example residential scholar and our returning scholar here. Ralph, do you want to share a little bit about your background?
Sure. I'm Ralph Stroll. I have been a member of the Returning Scholar Program since the fall quarter of 2019. And before that, I was a PhD candidate and holder of the PhD from the Divinity School in the field of history of religions. I'm one of those for whom the Academy did not pan out as in terms of a faculty position, and spent my career doing fundraising and development for the University of Chicago and a number of other institutions in the Chicago area. And in retirement, I am a returning scholar.
And Mitch will be joining us a little bit later
Yes.
in the program. Before we jump in, we find that with intimate sessions, it's always ideal to start with those who are willing to come on screen and just hear briefly who you are and your questions as we begin this session so that we can make sure to be responsive to them. And so, Cynthia, I see you first on our screen if you're willing to share who you are.
Yeah, thank you. I had the pleasure of meeting with Esther last week and getting to know her a little bit. I teach at Northwestern University, lifelong learner, keep going back to school for more interesting things. I've just retired from a job in the health system at Northwestern, but I'm still teaching in the medical school and interested in continuing learning. Probably not for credit, although I understand that might be an option. So trying to understand what is the core program, how does it differ from returning scholar, and then how does it differ yet again from the occasional class where credit might be desirable, for example, to transfer into a different program. So those are my questions. I think Esther did a marvelous job of helping me sort of sort through those, but that's why I'm here.
Excellent. Well, I'll just briefly say, Cynthia, that this is the non-credit version, but to switch over to the credit version is a very slight change and something that Esther can navigate with you. So the brilliance of this program is it's an a la carte opportunity to take the great courses across the university, and Returning Scholars is just our non-credit variation of that same pathway. Jim Eisner, I see you. Can we ask you to share who you are and your questions as we join?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. Good to be here. Sorry, I arrived a little late, and I apologize because I'm still very much gainfully employed. I probably only have 30 minutes with you. So glad to be here.
Wonderful.
Huge fan of the university. I had the pleasure of attending Booth's Chicago Management Institute, the 6-month or 8-month program with Jim Schrager a number of years ago, and loved my time. And I'm kind of at the point in my career, I'm probably 30 some years in, and kind of in the process of transitioning out of a current role. So I'm a founder, CEO, coming up on a process we transacted a couple years ago. So at the start of 2026, I'm going to kind of be exploring and looking around. So I think that this could be a good way to not only return to some fundamentals, although create just kind of an openness in my search, my journey, kind of looking out. So that's a non-credited course could be, or program could be perfect. Although again, I'm here to learn and look at the options.
Wonderful. Lyndon Taylor is a friendly face for me, but I'll let him share who he is for everyone else and any questions he joins us with. Hello, Lyndon.
How are you?
Good.
Good to see you as well, Lester. I'm Lyndon Taylor. I am a lecturer, or I guess that's the right term, in the Leadership and Society program for the last 2 years. So I joined because I imagine a number of these individuals who are thinking here are thinking about that program as well. And so just wanted to start to hear some of the questions and to become acquainted. And good to see all of you.
Wonderful. And Nico, we see you as our final video here. We'll invite you to share anything. And then anyone else who wants to share can come on screen. Otherwise, we'll get started. Go for it, Nico.
Yeah, hello. My name's Nico. I just graduated from the University of Chicago last year in economics. So I'm interested in this program because I'm looking at returning to Chicago, but switching more towards the divinity field. And so to me, this is a fantastic transition to get exposure to that, to the professors here. And yeah, I'm just super excited to be a part of this program.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for sharing. And I think that actually beautifully represents the diversity of the student body that we see in returning scholars, from students that want to return quickly to the intellectual environment that they love, to individuals who want to come back to it in midlife, typically for the life of the mind. So I'll just start by saying what you probably already know if you're here, which is that the Returning Scholars Program is an opportunity to audit courses across the University of Chicago and to be a full student without, in this case, the grading and testing element of the university. And so that means engaging with the extraordinary faculty, being part of the intergenerational community, and having access to all of the resources and facilities of such a great institution. The key attributes we find of UChicago students, including returning scholars, are that you are highly curious, that you really want to be in a rigorous environment where you are going deep into the big ideas of all time and of our time. That is a place that is highly collaborative because we believe passionately in the power of joint inquiry, and that's innovative in the sense that we're constantly breaking new paths and ideas. I'll just share that this is a highly open curriculum because it is the catalog of the university. So if you are curious, what have some returning scholars taking courses on in the recent past? These are some of the courses that we have seen great interest in. To Nico's comment, we've seen interest in some of the theological and philosophical and political. We've seen interest in history. There's been interest in urban development, in a lot of health issues such as global mental health, in some of the policy issues like housing and society. Some people have used this for their own journey in wellness. So how do you design a good life? And then we've looked at a lot of topics kind of at the intersection, such as the secret side of international politics. So that gives you a sense of the types of courses that you're able to access. And Esther will talk in a moment about the actual process. Across all these courses, you are hearing from the most eminent faculty. These are individuals who are typically tenured or tenure track, and they're renowned in their fields, and you have access to them both through the course, but also often returning scholars are building real relationships with faculty who they want to learn from even beyond the classroom experience. In terms of what you receive as a returning scholar, you have academic advising, that is with Esther's team, and that's to help you to choose a course that is going to fit well with the goals that you have intellectually, and where you can feel confident that you are going to be able to thrive in the class. You have a UChicago email address, which is just a way of symbolically making sure that you are a full part of the community and received as a full student in all correspondence. You have library access. We do have one of the greatest libraries in the world. While that is physically true, and we have a gorgeous Mansueto library that you can be part of, it is also true digitally. And there's a lot of services that are customized for those who want to go into very specific intellectual resources. We're fortunate that we have academic workshops on a regular basis that you can be part of as a returning scholar. And then all of the opportunities for any student here are available to returning scholars. And, you know, if you look at a day at the university, there is just a wealth, an ecosystem of intellectual events. We have people visiting the Institute of Politics. We have, you know, often controversial and provocative speakers coming in to the Chicago Forum. And as a returning scholar, you're a full student and can register for all of those activities, even when they are exclusively for students. And so you've heard me talk a little bit about what this program is about. I'm going to actually take down my screen for a moment so you can hopefully see us. And I'm going to I'll spotlight our room here. And I want to come to Esther and Ralph as the leader of this program, and then Ralph as a participant in it. And Esther, if I can, I want to start with you. Can you just talk about how you work with prospective students who are thinking about returning scholars and kind of take them from their learning goals to helping them actually find the class that might be right for them and get them into that class ultimately?
Absolutely. Thank you, Seth. So I have the pleasure of working with returning scholars who are individuals who are coming back to take classes, to experience the classroom experience, and to really sort of do the readings, to actually have these conversations, and really sort of move forward in their own research interests, their own professional development. And really, there isn't the stress of taking exams because our students in the Returning Scholar program, it's the same classroom experience. You're doing the readings, you're sitting in the classroom and having these conversations, but you're not necessarily doing exams, and you don't receive grades. So it's an R for audit that you will receive. So we have many students, and Returning Scholars is one of the oldest programs at the University of Chicago, primarily because the first president of the university wanted to invite scholars and practitioners from all over the world to have the same classroom experience and to have those conversations in the classroom. So it sort of sometimes changes the timbre of the conversation. And so it's a very precious, it's a gem of the university. So we have students who come in, who have all the degrees and who don't necessarily want a PhD or a JD, but who really still want to have that intellectual stimulation. So when the applicant first puts in their application for returning scholars, they work with my wonderful admissions assistant director, Marla, and myself. We grant you admission in the system. We have an admissions interview. We get to know you. We sort of talk through possible courses you can take. And once you're in the program, we will work with you one-on-one to connect you with faculty or the department whereby you are interested. So you begin the conversation. And I think that a good example, Cynthia will be able to share, we just went through that process. So you really get to know the department that you're interested in, the faculty member who would be teaching the classes. And then when you're comfortable enough and you've looked at the syllabus, you will then ask permission from the professor to be registered or enrolled in the class, and then I myself will do it for you. So it's a very high touch program. We make sure we're here to support you. We're here to help you sort of in your curiosity to make the right connections for you so that you don't feel isolated or you don't feel you're by yourself, but you really have the right connections and community when you take the class. Now, 99% of our classes are in person, the Hyde Park campus. So be prepared to come into our beautiful campus, just as Dean Seth described, and sit in classrooms. So your classmates will be MA and PhD students who are enrolled in those programs, but you will be welcomed in the class. And so really look forward to having those enriching conversations. So yes, so it starts with an info session like this, and then connecting directly with me for those conversations to continue.
Great. And Ralph, you are our example lifelong learner, and you've actually been part of this process from the other side as a returning scholar. Mm-hmm. Can you just talk about your journey a bit, how you shared your interests, how you then came into the courses, and then we'll jump into the experience that you've had since.
Okay. I'm going to work on the assumption that everybody's path into this is somewhat idiosyncratic. In my case, it was a matter of, I got a PhD in history of religions and I focused on India. And upon getting the degree in 1984, I went to India on a grant for 7 months and came back to really no job opportunities, of a faculty sort. So I ended up working for a couple of years with the University of Chicago Press, and then I moved over into the development office where I did what's called prospect research. And that means I don't actually solicit people for money. I identify the people that somebody should go solicit for money and put together briefings on them. My daughter used that to call me a professional stalker. And that worked fine because my wife is faculty at another institution. And so she was busy writing grants and working late, and I was having a job that gave me enough satisfaction, and I could come home and go to my kids' concerts or athletic events, through school. And so I rode that for a while. But when I ended up retired, I found myself thinking, I spent like 8 years studying Sanskrit, and I haven't touched it in the 30-some years that I've been working. It seems a shame to let that go. So I approached Esther about doing that. And it has been really a great experience for me. Sanskrit does a number of things. First of all, it introduces you to some really great literature. 2, it keeps your mind going. If you're going to tackle Sanskrit, your mind is going to be, firing. And it got to the point where it was just sort of a repetitive thing. I would check online and see the intermediate Sanskrit meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the advanced meets on Mondays and Wednesdays. So I would find out who is reading what. That I have a particular interest in poetry, less interested in philosophy of language, which is not to dismiss philosophy of language, just to say that it doesn't stir my mental juices as much. So I would pick a class, Esther would get me into it. And if it was a Tuesday, Thursday class, I would go. And then on Tuesdays, I believe, after the class, I'd walk over to Rockefeller Chapel for the tea and pipes performance, and then meet up with my wife, who was doing some collaborative work with a person here on campus, and we'd go home. One year, when it was Monday and Wednesday, I went to Bond Chapel, where an organ student was working his way through the Bach organ corpus, and so I could put together 2 things that really interested me. I've not been able to take a class for a variety of reasons since the winter quarter of 2024, and I'm looking to get back into it. But for the first time, there's a little bit of turmoil. I have another interest, and that interest is the history of baseball and the writing on baseball. And I found the 1913 World Series had some extraordinary writing that depicted the whole thing as a 5-chapter epic, it being a 5-game series. But as I looked at it some more, I realized also it was presenting the World Series as a distinctively American civic ritual. As a fan or a player or whatever, by your participation, you come to understand what it means to be an American. And this is occurring it has all kinds of historical consequences. It comes at a time when within the 20-year period, we've become an imperial power, having defeated Spain in the Spanish-American War and taken over their colonies. And then President Teddy Roosevelt became the first American Nobel Prize winner, winning the Peace Prize for settling the Russo-Japanese War. And suddenly we are on a stage we've never been before, but we also have had 20 million immigrants over like a 15-year period, many of whom are most of whom are from Southeastern Europe or the Russian Pale or East Asia, raising the question, what does it mean to be an American? You know, with what's distinctive about all of these different kinds of people. And I found that particularly the New York Times, but not it alone, was presenting the World Series as a ritual venue where you can figure that out. So now I want to find a faculty member who will work with me whose specialty is ritual studies and try to develop that paper. I ended up giving a paper at the Baseball Hall of Fame in their annual Baseball and American Culture Conference. And now I want to take the talk and try to make it a publishable paper. So I'm looking at the Returning Scholar Program, not just as a source of Sanskrit study, but as something, a venue for helping me achieve that other purpose.
Well, so what I love about your examples, Ralph, and sometimes we get framed as the place where fun comes to die. And I always think of us as the place where really curious people
Yes.
come to thrive. And
Yes.
what we're aiming to do with this program is for people that have had their core education and they want to just learn for its own sake and
Yes.
investigate things that either matter to them personally or societally.
Yes.
We want to be a platform for you to find an a la carte way to assemble intellectual resources across this incredible universe of them to be able to follow your intellectual interest. And so, you know, both examples, returning to Sanskrit, and that was in a more structured setting. There's actually courses, you
Yes.
can go intermediate and advanced, and there is actually a pathway. And then this greater interest
Yes,
in,
yes.
you know, ritual, right? And that
Yes.
requires some hand-holding and
Yes.
customization and
Yeah.
sorting out because we
Yes.
don't have an exact course on
Right.
that topic, but we have a lot of courses that
Yes.
touch on it. And then you can weave together those intellectual
Yes.
findings to be able to
Yes.
write the paper and hopefully
Yeah.
have a second presentation at the Baseball Hall of Fame. So I love that example because I think it really
Yes.
points to the essence of what we're aiming toward. And I mean, maybe you can just speak,
Yes.
and then we're going to come to the technical
Absolutely.
details in a moment.
Yes.
As to any observations about where Ralph fits into the types of
Yes.
students that are part of this
Yes.
program.
And this is why the program is so special. So Ralph and I have already started working. We are looking at all the faculty, right, that actually sort of discuss and talk about ritual. So we are looking in sociology, we're looking in cultural anthropology, we are looking, and then we will reach out to professors. I will make the connection. Ralph will have this conversation with the professor to see if they can put together a specific reading list, right? And so it really gets tailored, and that's what this program can do. So the first example where Ralph really wanted to brush up and go deeper into the Sanskrit classes, that's an option too. So for somebody who has always been thinking about this area, right, or this topic, they come in, again, it's not just choosing a class and getting enrolled, but it's really connecting, speaking to the department, speaking to the faculty member so that the fit is as close as possible, right, for your interest, but also for the comfort level of the classroom. And then we start you off. And what's interesting is in the last 10 years that I've been here, I've had students who've actually taken classes in new fields of study, right? I've had lots of people who are lawyers and business people who would like to take classes in the humanities, right? Who've never really taken a class in the humanities. And they would come and we would connect them and they would take these classes and thoroughly enjoy themselves. We've also had people who want to come back. You know, we've had lawyers who want to come back and say, I'd like to sit in at the law school in this classroom to hear what this professor, this faculty member is saying right now in this field of law. And we can help to make that happen. And so you're also keeping up to date in your field of interest. So it's a very special program, and we've seen many students come and thrive.
And if I may throw in two little bits from the standpoint of the student. One, with respect to ritual, as a divinity school PhD, one might think I would have imbibed a certain amount of that. And I did not, and now it's time. As for the Sanskrit, that's an example where actually taking the exams, though I don't have to, seemed to me requisite, because to find out how well I have been doing, that's a good measure. And to take the exams, knowing that if I aced it or if I failed it, which I have not done, it doesn't matter, because it's not going to be recorded. I will just know for my own benefit how well I've done. And so I found that very helpful.
Well, and a role model example that way too. We like students who take the test even when they don't have to. I'm just going to share a few slides on details, and then we want to engage all of your questions. So let me share this on a big screen now. You can see that our application deadline is coming up for those who want to be a returning scholar this autumn. You need to apply by September 2nd, and that allows you to be in a position to choose your classes and be in them by September 29th when the autumn begins. The reason that you may want to begin right away if you want to be a part of Returning Scholars this autumn is that this is a rigorous program with a serious application process, and we do have a team that will work with you to be supportive in that process. So don't feel like you have to do all of this entirely alone. In order to have a completed candidacy, you need the core application, a statement of purpose, a CV or resume, transcripts from the past institutions where you were educated. If English is your second language, you need a TOEFL or IELTS score just to ensure that we have confidence that you'll be able to be successful in the classroom and that you will have a great experience learning. And then there is an application fee, and as Esther mentioned, there's an interview. The interview is as much about us getting to know your interest and being confident that we can serve it. So there are faculty in this area. We can actually find the right classes for you. It is as much that as it is also an assessment tool simultaneously. And ultimately, then you're admitted, and then the team works with you to make sure that you can move toward the department or classes that really fulfill your intellectual journey. The program has a cost per course of $2,800. That is, I should acknowledge, much lower than enrolling in these courses typically as a credit-bearing student. For those who may want to receive credit to the question that Cynthia offered earlier, there are some additional fees so that it can be including assessment and the additional work of transcripting a credit-bearing class. And with that, we will come to your questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and let me just encourage, I mean, we have such an intimate audience that you can just unmute and shout out your question if you have it. You can also feel free to use the chat function or the raise hand function. Lyndon, I saw you come off of mute as an example. So you're going to get cold called automatically, and we'll see who else out there has questions afterward.
Seth, I'm glad I like you. But no, I think the question I had is generally how many graduate student at large students are there at any particular quarter or any time?
Yeah, do you want to talk about the total population?
Yes,
And then returning
yes.
scholars being the intimate piece with it?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, returning
Let's
scholars. I'm
see.
sorry. Yes.
Yes. So remember, our program is flexible. So when
Okay.
I mean active students, I would say that a student who has taken a class in the last 4 quarters or academic year, I would say altogether, graduate student at large, graduate student at large business, and returning scholar, I would say about 200
Okay.
active students. But for returning scholars, I would probably say about 40.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. I have a follow-up
Oh,
question.
yeah, go for it, please, Lyndon.
So for returning scholars, have you found a pattern in terms of the areas of interest, or a pattern in the path that they take as they start to explore classes? Just curious.
Yeah. and
Not
any
at all.
patterns,
Yeah.
In terms of the timing of courses.
Yes.
I mean, for people that are working versus people that may
Yes.
be retired, I
Yes.
imagine that influences which courses. just from a time
Absolutely.
and day standpoint.
Remember, 99% of all our classes are on campus, right? And so it means chances for taking classes online is practically, it's very, very small. So students come to campus. There are classes that are between 4 to 7. These are the classes that are typically found at the Crown School of Social Work. So students who are interested in social work courses, counseling courses, clinical psychology, those classes are 1 day a week. So for people who are working, right, who are interested to take classes, they're able to come to campus. But in terms of patterns, right, we have students, right, who are interested in languages and the humanities, law and public policy, and then the social sciences. So I can't really say I have found a link. Whereas in the graduate student at large program, where students are taking classes for credit and grades, these students are taking these classes for future MA or PhD applications. And so for those, we definitely do see patterns for students who are interested in data analytics or statistics, computer science. But for returning scholars, because, most everybody has all the credentials they need, they're taking this for interest. So it would be across the board.
And then just one other area for people that may be working, I believe, but correct me, that Booth also has some evening or even Saturday
Yes.
courses.
So for business, unfortunately, the returning scholars program doesn't work. So they won't allow students to audit classes. So if you're interested in Chicago Booth, you'll have to come in through the graduate student at large business program, which is at the end of the day, you get a transcript, just like returning scholars, but you get a grade. So for business school, those classes, absolutely right. Seth is absolutely right. There are opportunities to take evening classes, which are 6 to 9, 1 day a week, downtown at the Gleacher Center, where Graham has a big presence as well, the same vicinity. And you can also take classes on Saturdays.
But I did hear that point. If you take a class in business, you get graded.
Yes,
There's
you get graded.
No free rides in the school of Milton Friedman.
No, there isn't. Yes.
I see a question here in the chat. I think you said that the fall schedule might be published around August 26th. Is
Correct.
that right?
Absolutely.
When might winter and spring be published?
Absolutely.
About a month beforehand?
Exactly. Usually it is about a month before the quarter begins. I can see Seth this spot on. Yes. So everybody is waiting, bated breath, for the graduate catalog to be updated for autumn, and that will be August 25th. 26th.
I will just share for people that want to get a sense of what might
Yes.
be coming up. I mean, the last year is not a perfect
Yes.
predictor, but many classes
Yes.
do repeat.
Yes.
And the most common time for a class to repeat is in the same quarter.
Very
So
good.
it
Yes.
might be 75 to
Very good.
80%
Yes.
of what's
Yes.
going to be available.
So if you look at the general time schedules for the university, and I'll follow up everyone who's attended, so you can look at the archives. They're 10 years of courses.
Other questions? Anything else people want to know? I thought, Jay, I saw you coming on the screen to potentially ask something, so I'll invite that. In the meantime, I see a question from Gregory. Are there any other schools, divisions off limits besides Graduate School of Business?
Yes, only one, which is the medical school. Rightfully so, I would think.
Well, and I just want to clarify, when Esther says that, that is the formal
Yes,
MD program.
yes,
For those who are
Yes.
interested in the biological
yes,
sciences.
yes, yes.
So
Yes.
health, wellness,
Yes.
biology, chemistry, all of those are
Yes,
available.
yes.
So if you're interested in health and wellness,
Yes,
there
yes.
is a very robust catalog.
Yes.
But the specific courses to train doctors.
Yes, that's the
are
only
off-limits.
program that are off limits. So biological sciences, public health, all of those classes are open to our students.
Great. Any other questions? I mean, can I ask for maybe a final word, Ralph? Are you happy that you are a returning
Yeah.
scholar, and any words of wisdom for the group out there?
Words of wisdom. There was one person I encountered who was really worried. He was I think a retired psychoanalyst, and he was in a class that was going to read something like 6 Bronte novels in a 9-week period. I wondered if he could do it. And my response to him was, and it sounds a bit flippant, but I think it's very too much to the point. There are really only 3 things you have to do to be comfortable in and succeed in the returning scholar program. One is make a good faith effort to do the work. Another is to pay your tuition bill in a timely fashion.
We didn't pay him to say that.
And the third is just don't behave like a jerk. And if you do those 3 things, you're not getting graded, right? So as long as you really try to participate in a mature way, you're fine. And that's been a relief for me after going through so many PhD exams at the Divinity School. This was like the promised land for me, and so that's one. The other thing is it's been really, for me, a great way to diversify all the free time I now find I have since I retired. And so for me, it was, you can't really go wrong here, so.
Well, a wonderful way to end. Thank you,
Yes.
Ralph. And I'll just say we got a final question here from Gregory Barden about parking. I will acknowledge that sometimes they joke Hyde Park is the place where you can't hide and you can't park. We don't have a perfect answer on parking other than there is a very significant expansion of capacity in the last few years. And usually you can find a space
Yes.
on the Midway.
Yes.
The challenge is usually that space is still a 10 to 15-minute walk
Yes.
from your classroom, which is often on the quad
Yes.
or other locations.
Yes.
So what I'd say is there is parking. It comes with the joy of walking about a half mile to a mile on a Botanic Garden University. And certainly if you have special accessibility needs,
Yes.
there are
Yes.
additional places and
Yes.
those are easier to accommodate
Yes.
as there are handicap spaces.
And one thing I could help you with is where you park. We have our buses that go around, University of Chicago shuttle buses. I can help you so you know where you park and then you can jump in the bus and get to class. So I can help you with that.
All right, well, we are so thrilled to have you. If you're here, you care about the life of the mind, we do too. We look forward to being your partners in it and look forward to follow-up conversations with Esther.
Yes.
If you're interested in taking the next steps. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Thanks again, Ralph, for being
Well
on.
done, all.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Nice to meet you all.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.